Good evening, class. Tonight we're looking at lesson 3. It's talking about exponents, powers of 10, and looking for patterns when you're multiplying or dividing by powers of 10. So let's take a look at what each number values. Okay? So we're going to start with 1. 1 is worth 1, and we only can go 1 times 1. Nothing else is going to give us that. We have 10, the number in the 10 spot. We can do 1 times 10. 100, we can do 1 times 100, but we can also do 10 times 10. We have 1,000 here. We can do 1 times 1,000, or 10 times 100, or we can do 10 times 10 times 10. Okay? I'm going to mark these ones here. I marked the wrong one there. This one is what I want. Alright, so 10,000 is 1 times 10,000, or 10 times 1,000, or 100 times 100, or 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. And then our last one, 100,000, or 1 times 100,000, or 10 times 10,000, or 100 times 1,000, or we could have 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. Okay, so these are the ways. Now, let's take a look at these. Take a look at the ones I marked. And so we need to focus on that. When we talk about exponents and powers of 10, powers of 10 means we're multiplying by 10. Exponent is the number that's telling us how many times we're going to multiply by 10. So in this case, if I look at this first 10, I'm going to move this down here. How many times did I multiply this 10 to a 10? No times. Or 1 time. Technically 1 time because there's 1 10 there. But here we don't have any 10s, do we? So I didn't multiply it by any 10s. Now, how many 10s did I multiply it here by? I multiplied it by 2 10s. And what about here? 3 10s. And what about here? 4 10s. What about here? 5 10s. Very good. So 10 to the 5th power means 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. 10 to the 4th power means 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. 10 to the 3rd is 10 times 10 times 10. 10 to the 2nd power is 10 times 10. 10 to the 1st power is just 10. And 10 to the 0th power is actually going to give you 1. Alright. So let's take a look at some problems. I'm going to do 5, 50, 500, and 5,000. Actually, before I do that, let's go back one slide. Let's go back to something real quick. We know that this is 1/10 here, and this is 1/100th. and this one's 1/1000th. Correct? But we're going behind the decimal. Going behind the decimal. So if 1 is equal to 0, 10 to the 0 power, what do you think 1/10 is going to be? 1/10 is actually going to be 10 to the negative 1 power. This is going to be 10 to the negative 2 power. And this is going to be 10 to the negative 3 power. And also notice my exponents here are small and on top, on the side of each number. They're not beside the number, they're like in the top corner, like they're northwest of the number. Okay? So let's go back to this. So if I wrote this 5 here, let's say it's 5 times 10 to the 0 power. And then I have 5 times 10 to the first power. This gives me 5. This would equal 50. 5 times 10 to the second power would be 500. 5 times 10 to the third power would be 5,000. 5 times 10 to the fourth power, want to take a guess? 50,000. 5 times 10 to the fifth power, 500,000. What about 5 times 10 to the sixth power? 5 million. Very good. And I can think about it going the same way here. If I did 0.5, 0.05, and 0.005. This first one would be 5 times 10 to the negative 1, which gives me 0.5. 5 times 10 to the negative 2, which gives me 0.05. And 5 times 10 to the negative 3, which gives me 0.005. Okay? So now let's see what this actually looks like in action here. So hundreds, tens, ones, decimal point, tenths, hundredths, thousands. All right, so I have 4.3, and I want to find out what 4.3 times 10 to the first power. So I know that 10 to the first power is just saying 4.3 times 10. So I'm going to move this decimal spot over one spot. So from 4.3 to 43. 4.3 times 10 times 10 goes to the second power now, right? That is going to give me 4.3, and we're going to move it how many times this time? 2 spots. 1, 2. Because we're moving it this way however many spots. 4.3 times 10 to the third times 10 times 10. If we move our decimal place over again, 1, 2, 3 spots gives us 4,300. Now let's look the opposite way, 2.6. I'm going to go over here and erase this stuff here. Because I want to show you something in this our graph here. Alright, so divided by 10 to the first power just means we're going to divide by 10. So if I have 2.6, I'm moving it over both of these numbers one spot. So my new number is going to be 0.26. Alright, I have 2.6 again, and I'm going to move it over 2 spots. So 1 spot, 2 spots, 2. So we end up with 0.26. And 3 spots would be 0.0026. Because we're moving it over each time. Our decimal stays in the spot of place. Our numbers are the ones that are moving over each time. Alright, so now let's just think about exponents themselves. 10 to the second power is the same thing as saying 10 times 10, which is 100. 10 to the fifth power, this is like the same thing as saying 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10, which is 10,000. Oh, sorry, that's wrong. 100,000. There we go. Now, 5 to the second power, or 5, is 5 times 5, which would give us 25. And then here we have 5 to the fifth power, which means we're going to multiply 5 times. 5 times 5 is 25. 25 times 5 is 125. So that's that now. 125 times 5 is 625. And then one more 5. It's 25. That's 100. That's 3,000. 0, 2, 1. No, let's do 5 there. 5. So we have 3,125. Is what 5 to the fifth power. That's 3,125. Okay. So this was kind of complicated, so make sure you really pay attention to it. And we will talk in the morning. Make sure you're ready for your entrance ticket.